Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm doing it again, selling this Sony Fs7. So in today's video, I'm gonna go over what I liked about this camera, what I disliked, and why I'm getting rid of it. So this Sony Fs7, it's shot plenty of documentaries and different films. It's still a Netflix approved camera, and a lot of people swear by this camera. So why am I getting rid of it? So when I got this camera, I actually got rid of the Canon C100 Mark II. That's an awesome camera. The difference between the C100 Mark I and Mark II has autofocus, and that's actually pretty good autofocus. It just doesn't cover the whole sensor. So you mostly have just center point autofocus, but it still works very well. And compared to the newest cameras, obviously it's not autofocus out of a new Sony mirrorless or anything like that, but it still works great. The biggest drawback with this C100 Mark II or Mark I, it only shoots 1080p. Even when it came out, a lot of cameras were already shooting 4K, and Canon decided to release 1080p on that camera. So that's the biggest drawback. So how I got around that, I would shoot in 1080p, put it on a 4K timeline, and it actually cleaned up very well. That sensor was actually a 4K sensor. So when you did that, you kind of got most of the quality out of 4K, but it wasn't true 4K. But because of that reason, I decided to sell it. And I'm mostly a Sony shooter. So my main camera for video is the ZV-E1. I have the A7 IV, A7 III, and I've had plenty of Sonys down the line. So I decided to sell that camera so I don't have to buy EF glass and then Sony E-mount glass. So I got rid of it. And I decided to get the Sony Fs7. So this is the Fs7 Mark I. This has autofocus and it shoots 4K, shoots S-Log3, which that's mostly what I shoot in. So you would think it'd be perfect camera, but it's a pretty old camera, has a lot of quirks that in today's market and everything, I don't know if it's worth it to deal with these types of things. So for me, I decided I didn't want to deal with these things, and I'm going to go over what I didn't like about this camera in today's video. But yeah, like I mentioned, a lot of videographers still shoot with this. It's great for interviews and documentaries, things of that sort. Has autofocus, but it's not the best autofocus. Like I mentioned, the C100 had better autofocus than this one. So it's not the best. It does have built-in ND filters, which is very big, and that's why a lot of people would get this camera, built-in NDs, and it shoots 4K S-Log3. The problem I had with it, I have a lot of new Sony cameras which rely on the new color science. This is kind of the old Sony color science, which a lot of people disliked, and a lot of people shot Canon during this time. Because Canon just shoots better colors compared to these older cameras. You get a more natural skin tones, and you don't have to do as much in post. And yeah, that was a big thing with this camera. I had to do a lot in post to make it even match, my Sony A7 IV, the ZV-E1, which I didn't want to deal with, so that's why I'm selling it. A lot of other things that I had an issue with. This relies on XQD cards. These aren't very common cards, and they're pretty expensive for what they are. And being an older media and not a lot of companies make these cards, it's just hard to get, and they're very expensive. So another big issue with this, shoots obviously S-Log3 4K, but the codec's a lot different than your new Sony cameras. So the files coming out of this were way bigger than, for example, my ZV-E1. So you would think, both being 10-bit cameras, both shooting S-Log3, the file sizes would be a lot similar. One wouldn't be that much bigger than the other. No, it was day and night difference. These files were huge. Even when I tried sending, if I had to send like the raw footage or anything to a client, just to upload it into like Google Drive, these files were just like 100 gig, and I just didn't want to deal with that. Also, it's a crop sensor camera. Obviously, I knew that when I was getting it, but I would just rather shoot with all full frame cameras. All my other cameras are full frame, so that's why I'm selling it. But pluses, For the price, under $1,000, built-in ND filters. You can't find many cameras that have built-in NDs under $1,000 that shoot 4K S-Log3. So that's very big. Sony lenses are very affordable. You know, they're not as expensive as RF glass, even in a lot of instances, EF glass. I think the Sony E-mount lenses are just a lot cheaper. So you can get a lot of good lenses for this camera, a lot of third-party lenses. Like I mentioned, RF glass, you have to buy it from Canon. So it has a lot of pluses. You can shoot a lot of cool things. Built-in XLRs. Has this monitor built in. You can move it around. Multiple audio channels. So for any professional videographer, somebody who does like long interviews, it's a great camera. But I had a lot of issues. So the Sony C100 Mark II, I could set that up as a wedding videographer during the ceremony. Just set it and forget it. Big batteries, 1080p, so it wasn't big footage or anything, and it would just record the whole time. With this one, I would just have to have a lot of media to do that. And, you know, with how big the files are, the hard drive I edit off of, it had to be bigger. It was just a lot to deal with. It doesn't deal with low light as good as the new Sony cameras. Obviously, Sony cameras are known for low light now. Obviously, you can shoot in 12,800 ISO on a ZV-E1, A7S III. This, you know, obviously the image falls apart. You have to kind of overexpose for this one to get good video. So a lot of quirks, and I just decided to sell it. But yeah, like I mentioned, the biggest things, large file sizes, the color science doesn't match very well. And I mentioned this has autofocus, but the C100 Mark II has way better autofocus. So a little backstory, I'm shooting this one on the Blackmagic 6K full frame. Great camera. It has autofocus, but it's only one shot autofocus. So basically you're using manual lenses most of the time on this camera. But this camera has way more pluses than this one. It shoots obviously Blackmagic RAW, and the file sizes are similar to the Sony, you know, Fs7, which I'm getting RAW out of this, and this gets, you know, not the best S-Log3. So I decided to get Blackmagic 6K full frame, and I'm selling this camera. And yeah, the autofocus, like I mentioned, we're just gonna review. Autofocus isn't that great. Color science, it's the old Sony colors, which isn't that good. Media is very expensive. So I'm selling this. I'm going to make a video on this Blackmagic 6K for you guys. By the way, right now, you can get these basically $1,000 off original price. I think they were like $2,500. Now they're $1,500. So it's a great deal to be able to shoot RAW for under $2,000 and a full frame sensor, especially open gate. I think you can't go wrong with that. So I'm selling the Fs7. These usually go for under $1,000 on eBay. So I'm going to try and get that. But I got the Blackmagic now. So I'm going to make a lot of videos from the perspective of a video wedding videographer and photographer. So I'll give you guys my experiences. I'm going to try and use this for you know, reception ceremonies, kind of set it up like I used to set this one up. You know, out of the way. I'm gonna have to obviously, you know, focus it on you know, people doing speeches, and then kind of walk away from it. I'll let you guys know how that goes. But yeah, 6K open gate, I can kind of use that to any format I want, any aspect ratio after that, which is big. So if you guys have any questions regarding the Fs7, C100 Mark II, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what content you guys want to see. But yeah, thanks for checking out this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.